But I think it is absolutely applaudable for us to say to him this morning, what a noble stance. You know, the mayor, as he said in this article here, he's a Jew. The mayor is Jewish. And you know how Jewish, I wish black folks would get halfway as strong as Jewish people in protecting and in being proud of their heritage. And the mayor has said, though I happen to be a Jew, in defending his dealings with Farrakhan, when I become mayor, my job has a broader responsibility. I have to represent what is best for all Philadelphians. Now, that's pretty noble. Now, you know they're on his case, don't you? I'm not even going to tell you the stuff Miss Bill Porter writes about him this morning, because it is to be expected. I just hope I have time to compose a letter in answer to her column and send it to the Daily News, and I hope they have the guts to print it. I made a statement this morning. We have a newsmaker, James White, and I got my guest in the studio. Let me do this real quickly, Minister, if you don't mind. It's 8 o'clock in Philadelphia. Good morning, Stanley. How are you?
Good morning, Mary. Thank you very much for allowing me to come on. I, as you know, listen every...
Yeah, because I'm mad with y'all. I think y'all are doing us wrong.
No, we're not, Mary. And
I think y'all can cancel them little gym classes.
I resent the fact, Mary, that Temple has made an issue. Mayor Rendell called me at my home on Monday night to ask me after the fact, after having decided that he wanted to have the rally at Temple University, and asked me, could we accommodate that? I took 3 hours that night and talked to the mayor again at 11 p.m. and explained to him at that last minute notice, short notice, there was no way at the end of this semester that we could move classes around and other activities to accommodate the rally at the time that he specified. And the mayor understood that. And we have been allowed, for whatever reason, this spin to be put on this event and the rally, that Temple University has been uncooperative, and that is not the case. And I resent it personally, because my record is clear.
Well, I don't resent saying it. I'm sorry you resent it personally. I don't resent saying it. And let me tell you why, and I'm sorry we don't have a lot of time because my guest is here. But, Stanley, let me just say this. I know, I respect you and I love you, and you know it. But I know that Temple University cannot convince me that they can't find space for this kind of event. If council was holding up that Apollo, they'd find it. Temple doesn't move for the black community until they get pressure, and I resent that.
Well, that is not true, Mary.
I believe it's true. I feel as though it's true.
Respect you, Mary, and the minister who is with you knows that we have opened McGonigal to the Nation of Islam.
I know that, but I'm speaking of this particular... Temple is too large and too important that they can tell me that they are so small in mind, and that they're so small in space and staff, that they can't find room for this rally. Once again, Temple has to be held hostage before they open their doors to the black community. And if I had time, I could name you at least five different cases, and could go beyond that even before you came. But I'm sorry we disagree on this one, but I can tell you now, if the state legislature held up that money that Peter Leocaris went up that highway to get yesterday, you'd give us that space. And I know it.
Say that,
Stanley, I got to move on because my guest is here. I hope you and I can talk after he leaves.
the mayor has lied about Temple University.
Well, the mayor didn't tell me anything.
I'm saying that, Mary, on the record.
Okay, the mayor lied.
He has misrepresented what occurred with Temple University.
Thank you, James. Thank you. I still stand by what I say. I don't know whether the mayor lied or cried, but the mayor didn't tell me anything. I am reading here, and according to information that I have not from the mayor, that Temple isn't available. And I'm going to tell you all this once again, and Lord knows I hope this doesn't, this will not destroy my friendship with James Stanley White, because he's the vice president. Peter Leocaris needs to turn around and give up that space up there, because I understand, according to someone who is very close over there at Temple, they have some gym classes in that hall. Now, you're not going to tell me somebody is not going to graduate because they don't take a gym class. And Temple does not move for the black community until they are held hostage. John Street did it in that Apollo, and he knew what he was doing it, and I said it then, and I'll say it now. If Street hadn't had something to hold over Temple's head in terms of that Apollo bill, he never would have gotten that economic development, $5 million, whatever, for North Philadelphia. The Nation of Islam doesn't have anything to hold over Temple, and that's why they're not getting it. And Mr. White, on your way to work this morning, you need to go in there and you need to call Peter Leocoris, and you need to tell him he needs to open those doors, sitting there in the heart of North Philadelphia, taking up all that space where people need to be living, and open them up and let this wonderful nation come in. Good morning, Mr. Muhammad.
Oh, good morning.
I don't like to get upset around you because you are a peaceful man. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, first, let me just take a moment to say something that you won't say. A lot of people accuse you of going underground. A lot of people thought you were soft and pulled out. I couldn't have a lot to say, but I know better because you were never unavailable to me or to this program.
Right.
You made yourself available, but I just had a little more patience, I guess, to know that everybody don't bake a chocolate cake the same way. But
That's right.
if it comes out tasting good, what does it matter whether it was baked in a Jenna oven or outside on a brick oven?
Yeah.
And I kind of think that's the way you did this. So first, let me just thank you for that. Was it a difficult decision to pull back from the Grays Ferry area to the rally?
It wasn't difficult in that the Honorable Louis Farrakhan is involved. He has been looking at this situation from its inception. I've been sending him reports, and as he watched the developments, he was in the midst of bringing the East Coast, West Coast rappers together. And he had just finished successfully having a very a soul-stirring kind of a meeting with many of the rappers from East Coast, West Coast. There were a lot of tears, there was a lot of confession, and many people began to embrace to get out of this madness of the killing of one another from East Coast to West Coast kind of thing. And what happened after that, immediately after that, his mind was on Philadelphia, and he dispatched the Supreme Captain of the Nation of Islam and my regional minister, Minister Don Muhammad from Boston, to come in immediately to sit with me to go over this Grays Ferry thing, because he knew we were getting near the march. And I was sending him the articles from the papers because I'm like this, Mary, even though I may operate based on what I see, I don't have a mission of my own. I agreed to help the Honorable Louis Farrakhan in his mission. So whatever I do in Philadelphia, it's with respect to his mission, not mine. And if I have a mission, it is to be a great help to him in his mission. And as he watched the unfolding of events, he, like I figured he would, see things that I would not necessarily see. I had some hunches, but I mean, he saw something very clearly. And that was that we had a greater window of opportunity now because of the exposure that I wanted this situation to produce by bringing that light I told you about.
When you first came on this
Right, right. And now, because most Americans sitting in front of their television sets are looking at Grays Ferry in Philadelphia, a lot of that nationally has been achieved even before the march. So to say, would it have been difficult? It would have been difficult if Rodney Muhammad was on his own, but I have complete trust in Farrakhan's guidance. He's gotten me this far in 20 years without a bloody nose, and we got enemies all over the planet. So in that regard, it was not that. If there was any difficulty, it would be in just knowing that there would be people who were disappointed because initially there would not be understanding. And many times when you're involved in spiritual warfare, is what I consider myself engaging, when people are thinking politically, economically, and socially only, they're not going to understand every move that you make, and it takes time down the road to see spiritual initiatives bear fruit. And so it does take patience in that regard. To go to something you said before about people feeling either ignored or that I had gone underground or that I just stood up and didn't include everyone. As I said to the NAACP and others, I don't know of an organization in this city, and I could be wrong. I don't know of a church that has, as a part of its credo, bylaws, constitution, or charter, a feature in it that specifically addresses the respecting and the protecting of black women. But point number 11 of what the Muslims believe, I am specifically charged with that duty, and I ran that back to the Honorable Louis Farrakhan to see if I was on the right page, and he said, you are absolutely right. That is our Constitution, and we have a duty to do that. So when a woman reached up for me and said, I'm willing to identify people, I'm willing to go to court, I will not back out of this thing, we'll see it through, it was my duty to stand with her in that regard. I intend to continue to stand with her. We're going to continue to have a presence in Grays Ferry. But if there was any difficulty, Mary, it's just in knowing that initially there are going to be some people probably very disappointed because they were geared up for this. I think Philadelphia needed something. I felt we needed a breakthrough. Other people were looking at scattered site housing, resources for community, or what can we do here and there. And that's all right, because as I said before, if you shake the tree and the fruit falls and somebody knows how to take it and make apple pie and strudel and everything else, that's fine. But I was looking at a spiritual initiative. I felt that there was a spirit of bondage and fear on this city. I believe that in a great way, the white community in Philadelphia, many, not all, are unwilling to break the ceiling on certain ways of thinking about us. I think too many of us accommodate them in that way of thinking and don't help them out of that way of thinking. Too many of us that are in leadership in the black community. So I have to, I just have to say that, and I felt that we could have a breakthrough by seeing this through in a way that is very positive, but that would only have been locally. And March 17th, I told the press yesterday, I spoke to you about a march, I spoke to you about Grays Ferry locally. But nationally, this local situation is being played out on the screen for many Americans to see. Now, Philadelphia has a chance to step up to the plate. It was the first capital of this nation. It delivered the first Continental Congress to this nation. Philadelphia was the rendezvous point where 13 divided colonies began to come together to entertain what men in that day were afraid to think, that we are absolutely going to have to unite and draw up arms against the crown of England for our own independence and take a strike for our independence. I believe, and I have personally, people say, well, don't you want something personally out of this? If I want something personally, I have admitted it. It's that since the Million Man March, that Philadelphia take the lead in this country and show this country some bold initiatives in terms of leadership. And so, with all of that said, I believe that Philadelphia has an opportunity to draw a paradigm for how other cities can begin to approach the age-old problem of race.
I think that what I have seen, and then let me just be clear with the listeners, that I've been privy to meetings that I have not. I know people think everything I know, I say it on the radio, but I don't. There are things that I share with my producer because she's sort of my right arm, but there are things that I share with no one because I think Jay Wyatt put it quite clear this morning. You just can't negotiate everything in the newspaper.
That's true.
You can't negotiate it outside. I clearly would like to say that I know of things that you have been a part of while others thought you were underground and that you were unavailable. I didn't know where you were 24 hours, but I knew you were meeting with the right people at the right time for the right thing.
Yes.
I want to say to you, and if I have a chance to say to Minister Louis Farrakhan, that if the leader, the spiritual leaders of all other persons involved in what was about to take place in Grays Ferry had come together like the spiritual leaders of the Nation of Islam, I think we could solve a lot of the problems. You said something, and I'm not sure. I really do believe it. I'm not sure if you meant it the way I took it a few minutes ago about the leadership, and I forget how it was. You said something about the leadership
in our community not helping the white community to come out of ways that they think about black people.
Yes. Now I'm looking at Catholics, Baptists, Methodists, and interdenominational representatives who came together, and this is not a criticism, if so it's constructive, for an ecumenical service. If they had any kind of I won't say control, but if their parishioners believed in them the way the parishioners or the followers of the Nation of Islam believe in you on the local level and Minister Farrakhan on the national level, we wouldn't have these racial problems.
No.
We wouldn't have them because I'm not sure, I think someone said to me, and it may have been Cody, have said to me, you have to make that call from the pulpit. You make that call. Charlie Bowser said, you make it from an economical standpoint, from the people that make their paychecks. And people will stand up and listen. I am here to say this morning, obviously nobody listened to anybody but the Nation of Islam. And whether or not you accept it, and it certainly isn't personal, congratulations or not, I think a wonderful thing has happened. When you left here last week, a week before, I was convinced that a march in Grace Ferry was the right thing to do. I began to shift from that once I took a ride through Grace Ferry where I was raised, once I began to talk to various people who were close like you to the issue, that maybe, just maybe, and then when I saw a pamphlet, someone showed me a leaflet that had been put out about what they were going to do that day to disrupt. My whole thing came down to one thing, Minister, that is, no matter what happened bad, the Nation of Islam would be blamed. If it was good, you would not get the credit. And that's when I began to pursue a route to try to say, let's turn it around to another area. And I want to thank you for being steadfast in everything that you did, because right now, as highly criticized as the mayor is about his Jewish input, he did not invite Minister Louis Farrakhan here. There's nothing in that letter that invites him here. It simply says, if you plan to be here. And I think he should stand on the stage with the minister along with others that are selected.
Well, in our discussion with him, that was a pointed question put to him. Would he be willing to invite or accept or welcome him to the city? And he said he would be willing to do that. He obviously was willing to do most anything he could in a reasonable way
to diffuse this.
Yeah, to diffuse this and to try to avoid what he felt was a disaster. It could be a disastrous situation. I think it's unfortunate that when you can have so many microphones in front of you in a press conference and so many questions put to you, that they took only a part of an answer that I gave yesterday.
Trust me, I'm used to it.
Yes, and it made it seem that our sole decision, the Nation of Islam's decision, was based on the element of danger. I knew about the element of danger from the onset. I knew that no matter how much we tried to do everything to ensure a peaceful demonstration, there was always an element of danger, so that was not the major consideration. The major consideration was that as exposure of this march began to claim the attention of the American citizens from coast to coast, there was a greater window of opportunity for Philadelphia as a whole. The element of danger, I believe the mayor had begun to step up and beef up measures that he felt would ensure a peaceful demonstration, because he had felt that, of course, with this summit coming, that he could not afford for the city. See, damage to this city in terms of image and that could sink it back maybe even 25 years to what they feel they have worked to bring the city up from. And I'm not somebody that's trying to destroy the city. We're trying to help the city. We felt that the Grace Ferry situation had gone on far too long, and now these ugly developments of the attacking of women had to be addressed one way or the other. I'll say this because I said to the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, his desire is to speak to all faiths, organizations, citizens, and all. But I reminded him that we've already had that stage show, and I called it that only because I believe that sincere people came for ecumenical services. I always question what a thing is conceived in. Is it really conceived in all of us coming together to do something that's right for all, or was there a problem with a Muslim calling a march And there's too much of that kind of thing that we have to get rid of in our community, because it keeps us candidates for self-destruction.
Minister, do you think there will ever be a time that the Jewish people, I will say except Minister Louis Farrakhan, but will stop blaming him, or rather should I say, blaming his followers for what it is that he says? I'm sure that you have no more control over what Louis Farrakhan says than a Catholic has over what Bevilacqua says.
Exactly.
But I'm wondering, where do the Jewish people ever stop saying that there's no good in no Muslim because of Louis Farrakhan? Does this hinder you in any way in the work that you try to do?
Well, yeah, in some ways, it could be a hindrance, and surprisingly, in some ways, our community feeds a lot on controversy. If you study the COINTELPRO program of the 60s by J. Edgar Hoover, memos dispatched to field FBI agents was not to attack certain members of the Nation of Islam, because when you do, you increase the attendance in their mosques around the country, you swell their ranks. He said we have to find another way to destroy this enemy, because we were #1 on J. Edgar Hoover's list to be destroyed along with other black organizations during the 60s. So in some ways, controversy is a boost for us. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said it to Minister Farrakhan like this. He said, brother, there was a donkey in a ditch, and everybody that passed that donkey in the ditch threw stones at him. And one day, because so many stones had been thrown at him, they filled up the ditch so the donkey could walk out. And he said, brother, I want you to know that every knock is a boost. Every knock is a boost.
I want to pause on that. Give me a moment. We're talking to Minister Rodney Muhammad this morning. And of course, if you have a brief question, I know y'all want some long guest stints on here, but we're going to take brief questions and comments after we come back after this commercial break, new traffic report, and another commercial break. The proposed march for the Grays Ferry area has been suspended in terms of the Nation of Islam's part. There will, however, be a rally at an undisclosed or soon-to-be-determined location, probably when the mayor gets back from Washington today. He was on with us this morning, and we had a chance to spend a few moments with him last evening. When our guest stint is finished, I'll have some more comments about, and hopefully I can get James Stanley White back on the phone. He's a friend, and he's probably a little upset, but that's what happens, and it's nice that men and women can talk even when they are not necessarily agreeing with each other. Rodney, I mentioned a few moments ago about this whole business. You know, the mayor has taken a very bold stand. By the way, It isn't the first time. He's the only Jewish mayor I know who supported the Million Man March. And as many times as I've disagreed and really climbed on Ed Rendell's back, and people don't know it, I don't always pick my fights here on the microphone. As you know, I spent 2.5 hours in a one-on-one conversation with the mayor the other night, and I had a chance to really just lay it into him. I had a 10 or 12-point program, a list of things that I needed for him to fix in this city, and he's begun to fix them. And it's kind of like this whole Temple thing. Now, Temple probably will buckle down and never give up that space now, because I got my big mouth in it. And I understand that, but, that's what they want to do. I mean, they will not convince me that they can't make that space available. I know that they can. They know that they can. But for whatever reasons, they don't want to. And I understand James Stanley White, that's his job. But now that Mary has said, you can do it, and use the hostage thing, they probably don't they aren't going to do it, but something will come through. Is there any particular thing that came out of this where you and the mayor will have ongoing, and John Street too, I must include him in there.
There are some
you will
things.
have ongoing meetings to try to make this thing never happen again in this city?
Well, we have to, Mary. In fact, as I was saying to you before the break, when I was talking to Minister Farrakhan about all faiths coming together and everything, I said the people have just had this stage show, and we don't need to give them another show, but what we need to do is make sure. And he said, oh, that's absolutely right. We're not going to have any kind of peace and all faith service without justice being done for Annette Williams. without the truth being told about what indeed we're dealing with. But to go to the heart of what you're saying now, the first part of that question, I want to get that first part so I can be sure to get it clear of what you're asking me about the mayor's.
Well, what I was trying to find out, if you and the mayor and John Street and other officials are going to have ongoing dialogue.
Yeah, you know what I wanted to say was that we told the mayor, in fact, we questioned him about what we anticipated he would go through if we did what we proposed. And he said that he would deal with that. That was simply of what he told us. But some concrete things have to happen.
He said that by the way, he said that on the mic this morning.
Okay.
When he called from the train, I said, you know, you're being slain by the press because of you are a Jew, and he said I can handle that. He feels quite comfortable that that is something he has to handle as mayor, because he said when he became mayor, he had to service the broader community rather than just the Jewish community.
Exactly. We had some pre-existing demands, and we have the mayor's commitment on things that are going to be done. Number one, we want a vigilance maintained in oversight over the judicial proceedings regarding the Annette Williams case. See, something happened. They met with Lynn Abraham, and they switched the people that were working. So the black woman that was working on the Annette Williams case was taken off as a result of a meeting I think the NAACP and someone else had with Lynn Abraham, and now they put a white female over it, and now Annette Williams is not getting the kind of cooperation. So the situation has worsened now in terms of representation for this woman. And we, just as late as yesterday, she just picked out an 8th person, another suspect. So we had 7, so as of yesterday, now we have 8.
So Mrs. Williams is, in an ongoing way, is identifying her attackers.
Right. Now she's really on the defensive because the DA representative that she has now as a result of this meeting with the NAACP and others has her under attack from her own representation, asking her, does she have a criminal record? Has she ever done anything to be arrested and things like this? The detectives now, I mean, we got to get some letters out to Commissioner Neal and that. This is not what's supposed to be happening, and this is not what was told to me, see, in these meetings that we've been in. So I'm saying I know the fight is not over. We don't have any mugshots of all these other characters that have been arrested, you know, and she asked the DA, what about this? She said, we can't explain that to you. I mean, what kind of answer is that?
Rodney, let me go back.
Yeah.
Are you saying there was an African-American DA assigned to this at first?
That's right. That's right.
And as a result of a meeting with the local NAACP?
Yes.
The African-American?
And some of those leaders down there, some of those preachers down there in Grays Ferry who have been meeting with the NAACP and others, now they've met with Lynn Abraham, and I think they thought they were doing good, but what has happened, the situation has worsened for this woman.
So between the NAACP leadership and the ministers, you believe that resulted in the black DA being removed?
Oh, it did result.
Well, they need to call you this morning and explain that.
They felt they were doing good. They were thinking that they were moving in to make sure that the real top guns out of her office were put in there. But
someone
I'm telling
with
you,
more
the situation
experience
is worsening. They don't have the pictures. They're not showing us the pictures. They're not in these newspapers.
I've never seen a photograph of one of the attackers.
And Jerry Monazar at least put on the headline of the Philadelphia Sunday Sun, the first 2, those pictures were shown, but all these other people that are being arrested now.
No ID.
No ID whatsoever. And I know that part of the process is to take a picture. And that means that picture should be available for the press. They either have a cooperation with newspapers. I don't know what's going on. But see, these are the kind of things that have to continue to be exposed about Grays Ferry. The web of lies goes farther than that community, is stretching itself all the way out to Center City. I'm telling you, and that's why we did our press conference in Center City. So the mayor has given me assurances that these kind of things are not only going to be looked into. The mayor told the police commissioner, he said, in a week's time, I want these officers investigated that would not go into St. Gabriel's. I want some conclusive findings, and if we find that they indeed did not do their job, they won't have a job anymore. Whatever happened to all that? So that's back on the table, because we have not heard from the police commissioner about the conclusive findings of that investigation, and Annette Williams knows nothing, notwithstanding that no one has gone by just to see how this woman is doing. Then they're now dealing with what is the extent of your injuries. Is it really that bad? And I'm saying that it's painful that black leaders are into that kind of mode. No black man should take a position that they must measure the extent of damage done to Annette Williams. I don't care if she didn't get but a scratch. That's enough to stand me up and set me in motion. So it's just that I have to work directly with the mayor. I can't work with too many folks that are not taking the same stand I'm taking, and I'm not trying to down anyone. I'm saying that I have a specific thing in my charter and constitution that clearly talks about respecting and protecting the black woman. So
I don't think you should.
I said, this is my area, and they can't beat me doing this.
I don't think there should be a broker between you and the mayor. I don't allow it. I mean, I think when I need to talk to the mayor, I talk to the mayor.
That's right.
When I needed to talk to David Cohen, I talk to David Cohen. When I need to talk to John Street, that's who I talk to. And I think you have that that right.
So the mayor and I discussed also, I said there have been services. People have gone from white churches to black churches. I think that's good if you can bring out the good in the community so the good can be seen. The good could have been seen better if the good would stand out and condemn the evil. But when you don't condemn evil, Dr. King showed us the appalling silence of good people. The penalty and the price that you pay is that your goodness will never be seen unless you stand out and condemn the bad that's in your community, whether it's one of your own or that of another ethnicity. I said that with all these gatherings that have taken place, with all the prayer services, songs and hymns, that's fine. But I noticed that the very people who are causing many of the problems in Grays Ferry were not a part of those services. We're not even calling in Dan Lynch. We're not calling in that group. So the mayor has assured me I will meet face to face with that group. I want to talk to the people that jump on people. I want to talk to the people that openly express their hatred for us. I'm not going to whittle down on this. I'm a man, and I'm going to show some backbone in this. I said, we can have all this brilliance and people that know how to have meetings and deal and compromise in that, but I want to face this thing head on, and let's deal with the intimidators in the neighborhood who are both bringing havoc to the white and the black community there in Grays Ferry.
I take it you would like to sit down in a room and talk to that group of men who jumped on that woman.
I've been assured that that's getting ready to happen. I've been assured, and that's my next move this week, is to sit with them. Because, see, we can say, Mary, peace through strength when it's about white folks. You can deface a gravestone in a Jewish cemetery, and we will come on with statements about how ugly this is, how low down this is, and it is low down for somebody to go and deface a gravesite. Obviously, the person buried there can't get up and defend themselves and what the person is doing. I think that's an ugly thing to do, and it should be addressed. But you can burn down a black church, and the first thing we'll say is calm. Let's call for calm. I'm saying let's call for calm, but you call for calm not just to black folks, you call for calm to white and black folks. See, that's the kind of leadership that our community, the people that call into this radio station, that's what they're looking for. They're just looking for some people to be honest. Many times we play our people cheap. We think that they just think about black, don't care nothing about anybody else. Some may have gotten like that by now through misdirection, misguidance. But when you have leadership and when you have public officials, that's the only reason that I would never march in front of a corporate building, is because the corporate people are only able to forward their agendas because politicians are in their pockets. And if you go up on Capitol Hill, $1 billion is spent every year paying off politicians to advance the agendas of the multinationals. So the people end up exploited in that because the public servants of the people are not taking up their charge. And we as citizens, we got to learn how to back up our public servants so they don't find themselves prostitutes for the corporate interests of cities, of the nation, and of the world. I want to address these things. I want to see Annette Williams through. I told him I want to see some arrests. I want to see subsequent convictions, and I want to be there for the sentencing. These guys are not going back to the neighborhood. And we're not going to walk away from this. And if necessary, I'll park down in front of Janet Reno's office till they get a grand jury in here if they try to go back and go back to business as usual in Philadelphia. I'm letting John Street know and everybody, we're not going back to business as usual. So there can be a lot of smiles, but they're in for a big surprise if they think that all I want to do is inject a sedative into the black community so we can go back to sleep again. That is not why I'm here.
It's 20 minutes before 9 o'clock in Philadelphia, and we're talking to Minister Rodney Muhammad. We're going to take a break, come back, chat with him, chat with you if we have the time. Let me tell you about Young's Meat Market. I discovered this market a few years ago, and you ought to discover it now. It's at 122 Market Street, and they've been in business for over 70 years. You all know that I am a fish and poultry eater, and I was looking for turkey chops for a long time. Well, I finally found them. Just like a lamb chop or a veal chop, turkey chops are available at just $2.99 a pound. Any size fresh roast beef, $2.39 per pound. Check out these specials. 40-pound case of chicken wings, only $34. That's a real buy. Gourmet smoked turkey breast, roast beef, $3.79 a pound. No limit. We also have eggs, butter, milk, and all the spices you need. So for quality meats and poultry at the lowest prices and those turkey chops, choose Young's Meat Market at 122 Market Streets. That's 122 Market Streets, open Monday through Saturdays. We close Sundays only. There's plenty of free parking across the street with a minimum purchase of $25 at Young's Meats today. Give us a call at 925-5258. Larry, good morning.
Good morning, Mary. Numerous accidents throughout the area are making things tough on the roads. This traffic report is a service of the news with Brian Williams on MSNBC. 95 southbound is jammed approaching Cotman to the Betsy Ross Bridge. There's an accident in the two right lanes, and that's getting things all jammed up. It's also slow as you approach Girard Avenue. That's from Allegheny. Southbound Boulevard slow 5th to 9th, and again Ridge to Route 76, the Schuylkill Expressway. Schuylkill coming into town is not too bad, just the normal slow spots where there's sun glare. Again, the accidents are the problem. For example, in Ben Salem Boulevard and Bridgewater Road, Newtown Township, Eagle Road, and Marigold Road. And over in New Jersey, we've had some accidents on the 295. They have things jammed up. Southbound is jammed from Route 561, that's Haddonfield-Burlington Road, to approaching the Black Horse Pike. Accident has been cleared, but there's a backup of a half mile. Generally slow going through the area, so please be careful. Watch a primetime news hour on cable when it's convenient to your schedule. Weeknights at 9 on MSNBC. Call your cable operator and get connected. And that's Metro Traffic. I'm Larry Jordan on the Talk of the Town, WHAT.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day.
You too.
Did you know that high blood pressure is still a leading cause of heart attack and stroke? The good news is high blood pressure is very treatable.
Well, I know they're all here because the
Currently,
New York
we're
Times
recruiting patients for a nationwide research program
CNN
sponsored
called
by
me
the
at
National
home.
Institutes of Health. As a participant,
And
you will
Dateline's
receive
gonna do a thing
medicines
on
that
it.
are currently used to treat high blood pressure. If you are interested in helping us discover how to better treat your high blood pressure, please call toll-free 1-888-HEART-OK. To be considered for participation, you should be at least 55 years old, have high blood pressure, or be taking medicine for high blood pressure, and have one other risk factor for having a heart attack or stroke, such as diabetes, heart disease, or being a current smoker. If you qualify, you will receive free blood pressure medicine for up to 5 years. For information, please call toll-free 1-888-HEART-OK. Again, the toll-free number to call is 1-888-HEART-OK.
Find out how you can earn a graduate degree in human services at Lincoln University's Urban Center in Philadelphia. The program is designed to help those working in human services to earn a graduate degree, whether they have a bachelor's degree or not. It's also designed to fit with your hectic work schedule, and financial aid and scholarships are available. So, if you have a high school diploma or GED, 5 years experience in human services, and you want to further your career with an advanced degree, this is the program for you. Open houses are being held April 15th and the 29th, as well as May 14th and the 28th, so you can learn about this innovative 2-year program. You can also spend your summer at the Lincoln University Urban Center. Undergraduate and graduate courses will be offered starting in May.
For more information about the Human Services Program or summer school, call 215-387-2405 at the Lincoln University Urban Center in the heart of Philadelphia.
Lincoln University has a blueprint for your future.
It's 15 minutes now before 9 o'clock, and of course, let me just bring you up to date. The Nation of Islam will not be involved in a Grace Ferry March on this coming Monday. However, there will be a rally. The rally has been proposed for a public site here in Philadelphia. Minister Louis Farrakhan is expected to be there. At this point, we'll have a better fix on this probably on tomorrow and Friday's program, and certainly on Mondays. Minister Radi Muhammad, the mayor of Philadelphia, will be there. And as I mentioned earlier, according to a published report here, and unless this report in the paper is wrong, Temple University has refused its facilities, stating that they have classes that they do not have time to rearrange. I don't believe it. I've said that. My good friend James Stanley White, who's the vice president, is offended by it. I'm sorry he's offended, but I won't take back my words, because I do believe that Temple can move those classes if they want to. My history with Temple is you have to hold them hostage, because they don't really care a whole lot about what black folks want to do in that community, but give up their space for them. Now, I've said it, and I mean it, and I stand by it. However, we'll be talking with James Stanley White a little bit later on. Minister,
Yes.
With this rally coming up, do you have a preference, or I guess, will this is this lying on the city now to find a place, or is this lying on the city and the nation together?
Well, it really had first relied on the city, because the mayor was so certain in our talks that he could secure a venue. It was starting Sunday and Monday that I began to get calls from his office that he was unable to secure some of the places that he initially thought he would be able to. Keep in mind, Mary, that everything had a pin in it, because the one thing that we didn't know was if the minister was coming. Mm-hmm. And I finally reached him in the mountains, and he wanted to be here. He had gotten the reports. He had taken everything under advisement from some of his closest advisors, and then spoke with me, mm-hmm. and decided this was the way he wanted to go. I want to publicly thank the mayor also, because I know that he took some heat, but something better that Ed Rendell took a hold of was a chance to show some leadership in this country. He's been called the America's mayor, but he can really be called that now by taking some type of a bold initiative when it came to this situation. Mm-hmm. I also want to say that though Charles Reeves, Leonard Waring are intending on going on with the march, they can be assured.
They are going to have a march?
Well, I met with them before the press conference mm-hmm. yesterday to tell them where we were as a result of the Nation of Islam sending in the national officials, going over it with me, taking everything back to the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, and him taking everything under advisement, in addition to the knowledge that the mayor's letter was coming. And I had the letter that you read mm-hmm. this morning and faxed that to him to go over, and he spoke back with me. And that was when I found out. In fact, the press was sitting there waiting on me, because I was still on the phone with him about things.
So wait a minute. Let me ask you.
Yes.
You met with Mr. Waring and Mr. Reeves before you announced it in the press conference,
oh, yeah,
so they knew.
Yes.
Well,
see, he was trying to call me, and I was still trying to get information. I said, I got to keep the line clear, because the minister was to call me back in from He had gotten back in the country, and he was to call back in, so I had to keep my line clear. But once I was clear on everything, when I talked to them about it briefly, they simply said, and we had sort of talked about this before, that they basically are their own organization.
Yeah.
I belong to someone. I don't mind saying it. And whatever I do, if he says no, you go right,
well,
and if I'm going left, I'm going back right.
I made that clear on this program about a week ago. I said, one thing that you must be clear on, that the Minister Rodney Muhammad has to move at the directions of his leader.
And I'm not just
and
doing
I think I thank you for saying that, because there are others who won't be that honest.
See, and that's why I took the time to put that in my press statement to the press, that when I entered the Nation of Islam, I entered a structure, and by my entry into it, I accepted that structure that I entered into.
So now, I want to make one thing very clear, and that is that you were honorable enough that and respected that group in Grace Ferry enough to let them know before you went public with the fact that the nation was pulling out. So they knew that.
And even when we started, Mary, I brought that up as a possibility. I didn't think that it would come to that, because I wasn't looking at everything. But see, things were unfolding. The Minister Farrakhan was not just dealing with this situation, but as he kept getting reports from me, and then the news began to spread around the country, then he saw, and he said, as soon as he got that East Coast, West Coast rappers thing together, he dispatched people to come in.
Speaking of dispatching, the newspapers day before yesterday alluded to the fact that the minister had sent his top people in here, and that they had had meetings, and you didn't know anything about them. And I'm so glad.
No, that's not true.
I read it out here. I knew better. I mean, I knew better. You know, I just can't always sit here.
The press was all around, and they weren't able. The mayor and I were in touch with each other. He said, they're approaching me. I said, yeah, they're approaching me too.
But you knew when the minister dispatched his people here.
He doesn't operate like that.
I didn't think so.
He would never undermine anybody that he has someplace like that. But though they have decided to go on with the march, I would never work against them.
I understand.
I had said the same thing.
But no members of the Nation of Islam will have presence in Grace Ferry at the march.
No,
none whatsoever.
They will be with the minister.
Now, what time will the rally? Is the rally supposed to start now?
Because people were initially gathering at 7 a.m., we were to be in motion by 8:30 with our meetings with the city managing director. I felt that we had to allow for time now for some people who are trying to go where either myself or the Honorable Louis Farrakhan is going to be, where the nation is going to be, and what we have decided to do. So some people can literally be coming in not knowing all the dynamics and the recent developments. So rerouting people and then getting people to the direction and the location that's been designated for this, I wanted to allow for time, so we said the program will begin at 10
o'clock Monday morning. I have gotten calls from the New York Times, CNN, Washington Post. I mean, they at home, I've gotten calls, you know, and I understand that Dateline and some of the other, you know, national news magazine shows have had great interest in this. Now, we recently saw what happened with the Jack McMahon, Lynn Abraham thing that went nationwide.
Yes.
It is still continued. Yesterday on Greta Van Susteren, they discussed it.
That's true.
So Philadelphia, the nation has its eye on Philadelphia.
That's right.
Right now.
Right now.
With all of those, with that, I've gotten calls from radio people across the country. Girl, what's happening up there in your town? What's happening out there? Now, with that happening, is there any possibility that people from other cities who support these kinds of things will be coming to Philadelphia Monday?
They're coming from everywhere. We never planned for it. See, I have always believed, Mary, that when I said 5,000 men were going to come to Grace Ferry, I spoke into a reality far greater than myself. If we had marketed, talked to organizers in other cities, got the buses, made sure they had people and all that, then I could say it was a mini march, Million Man March. We just started talking about passing out flyers. I mean, basically, we've been fighting just to have the march, wrestling over this permit,
where do you expect,
all this kind of business.
Where do you suspect they're coming from?
I've gotten calls from Detroit, New York, Hartford, Connecticut, Decatur and Champaign, Illinois, Atlanta, Georgia, Washington, D.C., the Virginias, and almost every township in New Jersey.
Do you believe that these people will come maybe in caravans?
They called and said they're coming. They've been on my answering service. I called them back and they said, well, which way do we come in? Where do we get off?
Have you alerted the Philadelphia police and the mayor to all of that so they'll be prepared? This sounds like a many-million-man march.
You know, every day there's a call here and there, and we just note the cities, and those are the cities I can think of off the top of my head that have been calling. We basically had people routed so that we would be able to get them to Grays Ferry, and Joe Certain, the city managing director, had available parking space for some of the buses and things.
He's good in logistics.
He was the logistics man for the Million Man March.
Oh,
he saved the day.
He knows what he's doing. He's from the street. He knows what he's doing. Yes. We're talking to Minister Rodney Muhammad. I apologize. I know some of you folks have been on a long time and you have a question, but we're far behind and I have to take a break and I'll be right back.
Want to do something good for your church? Try winning a 1997 15-passenger Dodge van, a new Hammond organ, or food for your next church breakfast. You can, just by registering to win in Murray's Do It For Your Church sweepstakes, going on now at Murray's, your neighborhood food store. Don't miss this opportunity to win quality gifts for your church just by registering to win each time you visit Murray's.
While you're there, check out the low prices on these Murray's food favorites. Jamestown sausage, hot or mild, or Gwaltney Great Dogs, your choice, just 79 cents a pound. Murray's famous beef patties, 99 cents a pound. A 2-pound box of Murray's tasty chicken patties, regular or buffalo style. Buy one, get the second one free. And Murray's boneless strip loin steaks, just $2.99 a pound.
Remember to do it for your church. Register to win in Murray's Do It For Your Church sweepstakes today.
Murray's, your neighborhood food store.
So, you've got 15 minutes to kill. Why not call Geico about car insurance? We let you buy direct, which means the only thing you don't get is a middleman. So, you'll just have to miss out on the pleasures of paying extra to have someone repeat a lot of information you could just as easily have told us yourself. Sorry. Got 15 minutes? You could save 15% or more by calling Geico at 1-800-947-AUTO. That's 1-800-947-AUTO. Geico Direct, the sensible alternative.
4 minutes now before 9 o'clock. Let me tell you about Reese's Pieces. We were introduced to this fabulous lady's shop a few weeks ago. It's not the chocolate candy. It's Reese's Pieces Boutique, located at 9 South Lansdowne Avenue. You might just bump into me out there because they've got the most unique kinds of outfits for career, church, cruises, or whatever you want to do. And what I like about them, their sizes span from size 4 to 24. There are new arrivals almost every week, and no matter what the occasion, whether it's this coming Mother's Day, your Women's Day, or Men's Day at your church, or just a stylish day or night you need out, Reese's Pieces has the style that's right for you. Reese's Pieces Boutique is celebrating their 2nd anniversary, and they got a big red tag sale. You can save about 40% off of each item you select. So for the best selection, stop whatever you're doing now. Rush on over to Reese's Pieces at 9 South Lansdowne Avenue. Get a carload of girlfriends together and ride out for lunch and enjoy the great shopping at 9 South Lansdowne Avenue. Open Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturdays only. And I like that. Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays, and Saturdays only. From 11 to 6 daily, from 10 till 6 on Saturday. That's Reese's Pieces. Gift certificates are available. Yes, she will accept your major credit cards. Phone number there in the 610 area, 626-9880. 626-9880. 2 minutes now before 9 o'clock in Philadelphia. I want to tell you about something important. It's called electric competition. Now, maybe you've heard me talk about it, and maybe you haven't, but here's the deal. In December 1996, the Pennsylvania State Legislature passed what's called the Electric Competition Act. Now, what that means is simply electricity industry in the state is changing as we speak. To begin with, you, me, everybody who uses electricity will soon be able to pick your electric supplier. That's right. Residents, small businesses, everybody will be able to choose. Now, that could mean lower rates and possibly lower monthly bills. More companies will be coming into the area trying to sell you their power. When the time comes for you to make that decision, it's a pretty big one to make, and there are questions that you're going to want to ask. You know, the more you know, the better. Like they say, knowledge is power. Now, we'll have more on this electric competition later. But right now, if you want a free brochure, if you want to learn what this competition could mean to you, call Pico Energy at 1-800-980-9655. That's 1-800-980-9655. Pico Energy, focusing on energies and on you.
WHAT, Philadelphia.
It's 9 o'clock in Philadelphia. Minister, let me just ask you, can you give us a couple of more minutes?
Oh, no, I got
and
time.
let me
I have
thank
time
you.
for you, Mary.
I had to leave yesterday. I had to leave. I had some other appointments in Center City, and I left it in the hands of my capable and competent and right arm assistant over there. And I wasn't sure that she was going to be able to get you, and then I was listening to Billy yesterday, and I thank you very much, Billy, for announcing that the minister would be here. But when I got in town, I got word that they were on your back, the press. Everybody wanted Minister Rodney Muhammad.
That's right.
So I think, I'm not sure, are you our first? Is this an exclusive?
This is an exclusive.
Well, we sure do thank you for that.
Saved myself for the morning program.
I thank you for that. I feel honored. I feel that way because I honestly believe that you have handled yourself in a very spiritual way. I certainly look up to you in terms of spirituality because you haven't backbit. I know you looked the mayor in the face and turned him down on several occasions during this thing. I know that, and I appreciate the fact that you stood fast until you clearly had the road open to the route that you wanted to take. So I want to thank you first for doing that.
Well, we want to thank you from the Muslim community because we feel that you you really defended our stand initially, and
well, because you were
kept
right.
Things because there were so many people that were fighting against me. I wasn't sure why. I said, well, maybe they're just responding to the fears of whites, and then I even learned that some just didn't want a Muslim in front of it. I said, well, maybe they have a march as long as it's not a Muslim or either Rodney Muhammad or either Nation of Islam. So it's been kind of painful to know certain things. I think that this light has manifested a lot of things. I've had a real education in the last 2 or 3 weeks. I want to personally thank Johnny Sample, Brother Ken Tu, Henry Nicholas. Those are people that have stood with me through this. I think that we got a lot of work in the future in Philadelphia if we're going to make things better. We got a lot of challenges before us, and I hope that when we all sit down and work, we find ways to really work together in a real meaningful way. There's just been a lot, and maybe we needed this to flesh out a lot of things so that we could have a basis for really working, because that's what our people need. They need a leadership that knows how to work together. I appreciate what you said about the Jewish people. If there are problems in their community that they have with one another, they're not as big or they're not handled in a way that we know anything about it, and they can find ways to unite when it comes to a common interest for them. And I hope to God that in the next few years we can do that in Philadelphia among our own black leadership.
Well, I want to add to that list, and I always get in trouble when I do this, but I have to say it. I really want to thank Cody. Cody has become a very visible station owner, but and he doesn't like for me to say this. So if he run in here this morning and try to shut me up, I'm just gonna. I don't know.
I'll close the door.
You close the door.
Yeah.
But I you know why I want to thank him, because it pains me to know the chances he takes with me on this microphone. People don't realize that I may be secure and in the fact that I ain't looking for no other job. If he fires me tomorrow, I don't care. I don't want no other job. I don't need no other job, at least right now. But he has a business to run here. There are a lot of people whose mortgages and college educations for their children and groceries are dependent on Cody Anderson, myself included, to an extent. And he allows me to take some very bold steps that I know many, what we kind of like call small station owners, would not allow.
Yes.
People don't understand that. I don't want to go too far in saying this, but a great percentage of our revenue at this station does not come from the black community.
It doesn't.
It does not come from the black community.
I have pleaded with Cody that we need a campaign about this.
Well, black folks just don't buy from you. That's all. But I don't know. I have no information as to whether Cody has ever gotten any calls or any pressure from sponsors say, we're going to get off because y'all do this or you all do that. But let me tell you something. Carrying the Nation of Islam 3 hours on Friday when you're on, allowing a Mary Mason or a Nick Talaferro, for that matter, a Bill Anderson, who steps out on the water a lot, to be free to give opinions and all, can hurt Cody. And I believe it has. Yeah. I really do. And I want to, while we're thanking people, and I have this to say, whenever I go into a meeting, I don't care if it's with the mayor, the governor, the pope, or whom, I tell them, I am here because Cody allows me that freedom. I'm not crazy. I've been in this business longer than anybody at this station. I've been on the air and I've been off the air. I know the power of this microphone. Yes. I don't try to hold it in my head all the time. I try to pretend sometimes that it's not a big deal, but I know the power of this microphone. I know that when I walked into Zanzibar Blue last night for that Daily News, I saw those big corporate giants coming to me, not me going to them. Yes. I stood there while people like Russell Byers, whom I never even knew, quoted verbatim what I say in the morning. So I want to thank Cody for taking that chance and doing that, because I know half the people would like him to say, this is our last day. But I try my best to respect the freedom of this microphone. I believe you do that. Yes. And this city, I don't know, would be completely quiet in terms of communication if it were not for this station, because no other station will let these callers through. And though I don't always agree with every caller who calls, and some of them I wish they would stop calling, but they have a right to do that. Yes. And that's why I want to take a moment to kind of thank you for, I know that you and Cody meet regularly, for having that kind of respect to bring him up to date on what you're doing, where you're doing, when it comes to this microphone. And I think that needed to be said.
Yes, well, I thank Cody also. I think that, and I know when I'm in better shape, he will get regular advertisement from me. We're working on a new mosque now, and I'm looking to do a live broadcast that will cost us every week, and I'm trying to get the budget together for that. But we have to get a school started this year. So I have a lot of things on the table.
But I'm glad to hear this. The Grace Ferry project is ongoing in terms of the justice part of it. And that's important. And will you do us a favor on a regular basis? I don't expect for you to come in and spend this hour or so with us, but give us a call and